we're back to where it all began. I launched my podcast series with the infamous Dr. Miranda.
Infamous.
Quietly infamous, doctor to the stars, the elite businessmen of South Florida and beyond. And only the quiet and well-knowing people know who you are, and that's well. And actually more people know who you are too, but they probably don't come here. Anywho's, so this is how it all started. So I'm super excited to come back to this. I think a lot has changed in the year plus since we did our first podcast interview. I'm excited to catch up the world with a little bit of new age medicine and some of your new thoughts on what's going on.
Great. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, excited. The science is always evolving. So we've learned a lot and moved a lot. And we're happy to take it to patients to really help them be healthy.
So the last time I pulled out a lot of questions on what is internal medicine, how do you seek that, and what do you think the practice of that is? In the last few years, you've done a lot of focus on extending your knowledge base and how to treat patients and how to bring it together. Can you give me a little bit of what you've done, what you've been looking at, what you're excited about, and what you're working on with some of your elite patients that are asking for these elevated programs and things that further push what medicine's doing?
Absolutely. So in the last few years, I became certified by the North American Menopause Society for the care of women who are going through peri and menopause and postmenopause life in terms of hormone therapy and how to optimize their heart health, bone health, and brain health as we manage their hormone health. And that's been very helpful because the science has changed. Not necessarily changed. I think it was misinterpreted in the beginning. And so the teachings have changed. And we now know how much more vital and important it is to address hormone therapy imbalances and make sure that everybody's optimized on that. And I've also done a lot of self-education in longevity medicine, which is kind of more in the frontier of medical knowledge right now, and looking at how we can live better, live longer, and improve health span so that it matters for executives or high net worth people or people with families. You want to be able to be active and vibrant well into your 80s and 90s and maybe even beyond. And I think we can do that.
So how does that change your strategy? I know you've always focused on preventive. Is that just like an additional piece to the puzzle that we're looking at, or is it an extension of that? Like, what would you say has changed in your thought process of health span and how you have been doing this medicine for over 10 years and helping people prevent issues, illnesses in the long term? How does that all come together?
Definitely, I think it's part of prevention and optimization, right? We want to help people stay healthy, and now we want to help them stay feeling optimally well, not just healthy, or not just fine. And we want to be able to do that for them much longer than we would have in the past. So I think it all definitely ties in. And then there's people that maybe it's not for preventive reasons, but it's to treat symptoms or illnesses that they've developed along the way. And we want to be able to find a way to reverse some of that damage, get them feeling better, and also help them on their health journey long term.
Yeah, there's a lot of founders now that started working, or people in business that were working in their late 20s to their early 30s, 40s, and they've exited, they have families, and they've given up their wellness for wealth. And now I think what I'm seeing in the market is those people are willing to invest in trying to reverse the damage they've done over a decade or so of creating all this stress to create this opportunity for their family. And so I see that's kind of where some of these people are going and whatever they can do to reverse. So I think that's kind of what you were alluding to there.
Absolutely. And I've been a big believer in that for a long time. Actually, I think maybe our first or second of all time Instagram posts, so this is back in 2013 when I started Pure, was a chalkboard sign that said something like, your body's going to be around a lot longer than that handbag. Invest in your health, because it's your number one asset, and having a great health span, I think, is the ultimate luxury, so that people can really enjoy long-term what they've worked so hard to build in their careers, in their families, and in their legacy.
Skip a handbag now, buy 5 later. That's what I heard.
I mean, buy the handbag and invest in your health.
Most people can afford it.
That's girl math at its finest.
Honestly, with the prices of dinners and lunches, what's become the new big city in the world, in Miami, it's not even that big of an investment anymore.
You're right. You know, concierge medicine is more accessible to people. I think people have, especially in South Florida, there's more affluent people. There's more people that are just that dedicated to their health that they're willing to make that investment for themselves and for their families, right? So I think it's wonderful that it's grown so much.
Yeah, it's you know, we talk about this often, so I'll put this on camera. Everybody starts investing in their 401ks early. They start investing money. They're buying properties. All the people that are moving and creating wealth are thinking long-term. How does this compound over time? It's the same with your health. You need to start now at 30 years old to think of how you want to feel 40, 50 and beyond. At 40 to think about what you want to feel 40, 50, 60, 70 beyond, and be able to move, pick up your grandchildren without hurting your back, be able to run around the fields with them, ski with them maybe. But you have to start thinking ahead of time, because it's really hard to go backwards when you're 60 and start trying to build muscle mass to continue to what you want to do. Everything gets harder every decade. So it's like really thinking about long-term results, and that with your guidance as a health advisor, and you've been putting in all the work and coming up with a program for over 2 years now to take care of the patients that want this, I think it's really important to think what is important to you. And most of the people that are looking at this are high stress, high producing heads of family. And they're trying to figure out, how do I eliminate or reverse or at least keep even keel all the natural things that come with all this responsibility in their family life and their business life. And so to have that health advisor, I think is quite important.
For sure. And I have that kind of conversation with patients all the time about being able to do the things that you enjoy long term. So being able to be strong enough to sit down on the floor and play with your grandkids and get up without asking them to help you, or being able to do it while carrying the toddler in one arm. And that's something that people don't think about. But as we get older, if you don't prepare for it in terms of building muscle and being healthy and staying lean, you're not going to be able to do it. And it's those little things that end up affecting people's daily quality of life, not to mention, of course, the big things like being able to travel and be active physically if you wanted to with your adult children or your grandchildren. So these things are very important.
One of the things that you've been doing this medicine for a long time, and I would like to get a little bit into some things around that, but private equity, venture capital, they're suggesting by 2034 that this market in just concierge medicine, the way it is now, which you've already alluded to, that you're changing the way you look at it, is supposed to hit $47 billion. That's wild, which is double what the market is valued now. So this is why we're getting so many emails for partnerships, equity share, or complete buyout. And thank you for all the emails. They're not annoying, but we're not looking right now because we're growing and we're not looking for anything like that. But what are some of the things that you see and you wish were more in the concierge medicine world that you see now so many people have popped up in the last few years around this?
You're right. It's definitely exploded in the last few years, I would say since COVID, because I think people realized during that they really need a personal relationship with their doctor. A lot of medical offices closed during COVID and weren't able to be accessible to their patients. We weren't one of those. We actually worked harder and longer hours than we've ever worked in our lives. And I was happy to do that. It was like, this is our Super Bowl. This is what we're here for. Let's help people, right? And I think it resonated a lot with patients out there because they want to be able to reach out to their doctor if something's going on and it's a weekend or an evening or they're traveling. They want to be able to be more proactive and spend time talking to their doctor and not just the quick 5-minute, hello, how are you? Your labs are good. See you in a year. Because that's not really looking at their health or anything meaningful to their day-to-day life. So I think there's been an increased interest Also, as you said, there's been, shifts in where people are living in the country and where big companies are bringing their executives or where wealthy people have moved. For preferences with taxes or lifestyle or the weather. And so places like South Florida have boomed in terms of concierge medicine. I think central to it all, though, is really liking the person that you choose as your concierge doctor and making sure that you can have a personal relationship with this person to advocate for your health and join you in this health journey long term.
So, I think one of the things that gets muddied a lot, and if I talked about this on the first podcast, please stop me, which may be true, is I think, from a consumer standpoint, and before I got into this world as a sales representative, everybody looks at this doctor like on a super high pedestal. Now, it is very difficult to become MD or DO. I am not taking away from that by any means. But with this complete surge has created quite a few different explosions in medicine, people leaving hospitals, just jumping into it, which obviously there's a lot to learn in business as you grow your practice because it is about the relationship. And I know that you developed and created Pure around an intimate relationship with the patient. But what I think from a consumer standpoint, we don't always know the difference between ABC Concierge that opened last month and someone that's been doing it for a while. What would you say is the difference between those two different groups of people that have, a different on-look? And what would you tell a patient that's looking for a concierge doctor?
So I think there is a difference. There's a difference in terms of experience, right? It's one thing to work in an ER only and then go out and try to open a concierge practice. You do a lot less preventive care in an ER by way of the fact that it's an emergency center than you would naturally do in a concierge office. Similarly, if you only take care of patients that are admitted to the hospital your whole career, it's a lot harder to transition into looking at the things that are bothering them on a day-to-day basis when they're not sick enough to be in the hospital, the things you want to optimize. So, some of the great doctors there will, of course, go the extra mile and do training on that and conferences and learn and be able to bring that into their practice. But if you have someone who's already been doing it for over a decade, they have the experience and the knowledge to know these are the things that matter. These are the things we have to focus on. You also want to have a great patient experience. So you want it to feel like this place knows what they're doing and they are reliable when I call them, and they have a system in place where they get back to me right away and it's easy and it's convenient and I can do everything under the one roof in their office or as many things as, feasible, so that it feels more well thought out and that it also is more convenient for you.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. So I think it's really interesting, right? Because we've had a little bit of a focus and we've gone on trying to find people that meet kind of the pure soul in the background of what you just talked about, trying to hire doctors that align with those kind of values. And one of the things I was thinking about, and you just made it trigger in my mind, is like, even if you are in a hospital system, which both of your colleague partners here at Pure were from, I think one of the things is when you're an outpatient, your job is to try to keep your patient outpatient. And I think the frustration with your partners was they weren't always able to do that because of the cadence they saw the patients and the in-depth and time they had, right? And you built this around that. And you have the training to, if it becomes an inpatient thing, to set up the hospital and, have that kind of relationship with the physicians that are focusing on inpatient to make sure that we have a collaboration. So I think that goes really well. I think the experience and expertise that you bring, because you've been doing this so long and you've had time to keep up and be at the forefront of medicine, and the things that are being talked about online, you've been doing for a long time in the practice, just not saying it on Instagram or saying it on Instagram just without being a Instagram influencer yet. So, no, I think it's important for patients to really think about that when you think, coming back to what I said, like compounding health, like the experience too, when things go wrong, and the opportunity for that is something that needs to be thought out too. Like, I don't think most of the patients that join Concierge would give a 22-year-old all of their money to invest, and it's not about the age per se, it's about the experience in the field, so, and there's nothing wrong with being a 21, 22, 25-year-old financial advisor, but you want someone that's been through a couple of decades of financial changes to understand how to protect your money and optimize it. Same thing in health. And I think if we start thinking this way, and physicians, which I know you're in a couple different groups of physicians within longevity medicine and beyond, start thinking in this way and taking back medicine, people will start to be educated a little more intelligently on what to do and how to take some of these things. And even if they cannot today invest in concierge medicine, at least get the best outputs possible. So I think you answered a lot of questions about patient care, where medicine's going, a little bit about longevity. Did you want to add anything else like precision or functional medicine that you're excited about, since you've also done some background and quite elaborate deep dives into that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we use pieces of precision medicine and functional medicine as they are relevant to the patient all the time. So genetic testing and being able to identify treatments that work better for one patient versus another. Because of that, we definitely focus on, as well as being able to look at the connection between the gut and immune health and your overall inflammation in your body. We look at that quite a bit. We also look at levels of vitamins and antioxidants and how we can optimize these, or how maybe sometimes stressful lives and careers deplete some of these, so we can bring those levels back in balance to create better overall health for the patient, so that they really feel the vitality that they want.
Yeah, I think that's great. You just bring so much knowledge into helping, and that's like a standard here. I want to move on. We published a pretty in-depth article on ApoE that brought a lot of light and information to me that I'm still digesting. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and some of the things that are being spoken about and what your take on it is? Sure.
So ApoE is a gene that encodes for the ApoE protein. And it's a protein that's involved in cholesterol transport, fat metabolism, and it has profound actually effects on people's lifetime risks for not only heart disease, which makes sense based on the cholesterol connection, but also major implications for risk for Alzheimer's disease, specifically more earlier onset cases of Alzheimer's disease. And there's the most common allele combination, thankfully, is neutral for that risk. So by and large, many people don't have to worry about increased risk related to ApoE for Alzheimer's risk. But if you do have one of the genotypes that is associated with increased risk, it can increase your risk anywhere from 3-fold what it would have been without that to as high as 12-fold. So for some people who really have that risk along with others, we've seen 80% of them can have risk for earlier onset Alzheimer's. And it's a great tool to know your risk and be able to help do things along the way that mitigate that risk. It's also sometimes scary information for patients to have, because maybe they worry that it's like a time bomb and they can't do anything about it, and it's going to give them health anxiety and ruin their quality of life in that way. So when we look at tests like that, I always try to have that conversation with my patients, whether it's testing for something like ApoE or doing a whole body MRI for cancer screening. Are you okay knowing if we find something that is not good news? What are you going to do with that information? And the answer is different for everybody. There's patients that want to know, want to be proactive, and they're going to dedicate their life to lowering their risk and being healthier. And there's patients that it's not going to motivate them. If anything, it's going to maybe paralyze them with fear. And then that's not a great patient to do this kind of a test, because you don't want to ruin your quality of life just by knowing something that is out of your control anyway. So I think it's a fascinating test, wonderful data. There's also other Alzheimer's tests that have come out in the past few years that we use in collaboration with our neurologists that we work with that help patients qualify for trials, whether it's for imaging trials, new medication trials, and even more cutting edge things like stem cell trials to be able to stop progression of very early signs of potential Alzheimer's plaque development in the brain and be able to lower their risk long term. So sometimes these pieces of new information can actually help if we have enough time to be able to let the science catch up.
Yeah, I guess it's having data so you can figure out what can be done today or what can be done tomorrow.
Correct.
And I guess that's, I would think most of the longevity patients would be interested in trying to know, so there's something that can be planned out with you, whether it be today or tomorrow, given what's coming out. I think we're in really exciting times of medicine. Things are coming out faster. The use of technology is helping move things quicker or finding more solutions. And I think right now, there's never been a better time to invest in your health and just hold as healthy as possible for the next 5 to 7 years, because the amount of things that may be coming out, and I know you spoke to a PhD from Johns Hopkins recently about a little one-off case, and some of the exciting things that are coming out from that, prestigious institute. And there's other ones that you're in communication with as well. But I think there's never been a better time to invest in your health and stabilize or optimize your health, because there is going to be so many options and opportunities in the next decade, let's call it, but probably faster.
Absolutely. I mean, we are living in remarkable times, and it kind of reminds me, this is, because I have children and who like Marvel movies. It kind of reminds me of Black Panther, where they can just put in all the information into the AI supercomputer and be able to make life-changing health decisions and therapies on the spot. And maybe we're not there today. We're definitely not, but that's not that far off, in a lot of realms of medicine. So it's a very exciting time for sure.
Well, since you brought it up, and I was going to go towards the end on this, what are you excited in the tech world, and what kind of capabilities, and what are your thoughts around that?
So there's a lot of good that's coming with AI. I think it's also going to change things for certain sectors, whether it's healthcare or otherwise, maybe that aren't going to be as great, by replacing jobs for hardworking people and things like that. And you have to be very careful with trusting everything you see from AI, because it can still hallucinate. We're not out of that zone just yet.
Oh, it hallucinates. I use all the top tier models. I am a complete AI advocate. You've seen it when we've drawn some things out and we've gotten around it, but it definitely will test your patience. Well,
the good thing is you feed it information and questions, and then you have a certain level of expertise in the data, right? So you can question it, and then if it is hallucinating or steering you wrong, it will correct. So that's the good thing about it. If you're using it with people who know the material, you're going to get a better answer, right? You just can't trust everything it says, just like you can't trust everything somebody says on TikTok, right? This seems like a much more educated version.
Healthcare and wellness is being ran by TikTok right now. It's hilarious.
But there's a lot of great medical advances coming from AI in terms of personalized treatments that they're going to be able to create much faster than a team of human scientists could create for things like immune-mediated cancers, for example. I love using the Clearly test with our patients for cardiac screening. That's an AI program that is run on a CCTA scan, which is a heart scan of the arteries in your heart, to see 3D images of soft plaque, not just calcified plaque, and be able to really know people's risk and know what those look like. And they didn't have to do an invasive catheterization in a lab in order to get that info. So there's a lot of great things that AI is going to bring for us as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to, I do believe wholeheartedly that it's going to even bring more value to concierge medicine in general, and to you specifically, because it's going to allow you to have more time with your patients. It's almost like having a bunch of assistant little researchers that can get you information quickly, and help you draw out information that maybe took you an hour. You can get it in 5 to 10 minutes, and you can look through it, see what works, not works, reprompt it if it doesn't work, and find things. Especially when someone gets an unfortunate result back from, some sort of cancer test or something, and it's a rare cancer or something. You can find information on who treats it, stuff like that, much faster than you probably would have been able to 2 years ago.
For sure, because given the nature of our concierge practice, we always want to connect our patients with the best specialist that exists for whatever they need. So a lot of times that's a research project of seeing if there's an expert in the country for this specific thing, especially if it's not something that's so commonly seen. Yeah. So AI is able to help a lot with that. And also when patients have been in the medical system for a long time, they bring a lot of medical records, and being able to feed that into an AI system to make, a chart of their prior labs or a summary of their prior health makes it a lot less tedious for us to fully know their health history, because sometimes these charts are hundreds of pages long and we don't want to miss a detail. So it's a better way to do that.
When she says pages, it's not always electronic.
No, sometimes it's paper.
Sometimes they come in with this phone book and there are some doctors that still practice way, and bless their hearts, they're wonderful at what they do, but they did not adapt to the EMR system. And I understand both sides to that too. But the one thing I believe too is with that technology allowing you to do what you do, people are going to be more interested in having these personal relationships with their physician. And what I'm hoping and what I believe is going to happen, it's not that it's going to take over most jobs. I think what it's going to do is force better healthcare at people that do not have the means to invest into their healthcare. And that's what my North Star is. And I believe there's a lot of people thinking that way. And there are some people trying to replace physicians, but I think that's a dangerous role. I think it's giving physicians the power to do the job they were brought here to do, which is help patients. And there's a bunch of startups around that, even from making even though it's not as tedious in concierge medicine, but like your notes, your billing, all that stuff much easier for you. So you have more time to be present, more time to have a life and amongst everything else, including with the staff. So I think it's going to help the efficiencies from business side as well. But the care is the most important part. So we're going to see quite a change in how that all operates in the next few years. And it'll be interesting to see how the big institutions utilize it and streamline their operations to give better care, because it's such a big moving system to go into a hospital versus a boutique concierge practice like yours and be like kind of brought around department by department where nobody talks. So we're able to hear, and you're able to really navigate that system well. And so I'm hoping they'll become a little more effective and efficient, but we'll see. So one of the other things that we talked about recently too, and I've always been kind of a fan, is kind of one of the longevity markers that's been really popular. And now, there's an argument around, is it still the number one? But it's definitely one of the most interesting longevity markers, in my humble opinion, and please give yours, is VO2 max testing. Talking about longevity and how we can utilize that. What are your thoughts on that, and how can people utilize that, and how do you utilize that in thinking about, your patient's health and longevity?
I think it's a fantastic way to really get a good assessment of a patient's cardiorespiratory fitness currently, set a plan for how to improve it long term, and it is a very powerful marker of longevity. It's arguably the best one we have. And it's a simple thing, right? That's a lot of things in medicine, right? The most powerful things are sometimes the simplest things. So VO2 max we use a lot in our office. We do VO2 max testing in the office. We do treadmill testing with resting metabolic rate analysis and VO2 max testing. So we can really see what the body's capacity for energy production with oxygen is. And the relationship of how that translates to longevity is that because if your body is more effective and efficient with oxygen and can perform more energy before they stop being able to use oxygen in order to do the exercise, it's a healthier heart that can have a lower risk of heart disease long-term, and we've seen that in studies. It's a stronger body that has a less likely chance of having frailty as we get older, and all of the illnesses associated with frailty, right? It's also less risk of dementia, because being able to exercise like that and get that oxygenation to the whole body includes the brain. And so those people have lower risk of dementia, better cognitive function long-term. And being able to improve your heart and respiratory fitness, your muscle and total body strength fitness, and your brain fitness, that's how you improve health span. So that's why it's such an important marker for longevity. The best thing, or the most satisfying thing about VO2 max, is that you can improve it. So it's not like a marker that you were born with and you're stuck with and so sad, we can't do anything. No, people can be proactive and improve it on a continual basis by changing the style of exercise they do, by sleeping better, and they can track it. A lot of people track it with wearables. I have the Aura, you have a Whoop, other people use an Apple Watch. All of these things are designed to give you a measurement of VO2 max so that you can see how you're doing, and they're great for trending, right? Don't get obsessed over one low value or 2 days that look off. It's better for the long-term trend. So by using this data with patients and their test results on a proper VO2 max assessment, we can then guide them in terms of creating a 4x4 exercise strategy, or a 3-to-1 HIIT strategy, or more zone 2 exercise, things like that are actionable ways to improve their VO2 max and thereby improve their longevity.
So how you gave a very robust answer. As
Too much
usual.
Information, sorry.
No, that's fine. I want to bring this kind of back though. I heard everything you said. I get it. My gym offers VO2 max testing. They have a machine similar to one of the ones we've had in the past. Not the one we have now, but let's just say everything's equal. And we both know these are good to keep some trends. So if you actually do a true VO2 max, you can track where you are today on a Whoop or an Oura Ring and see if that improves, and then redo your VO2 max test, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get accurate results without doing the actual true VO2 test. This is great for trending because it'll see how much zone 2 you are, and theoretically, if you do it correct, your trend's moving in the right direction. Hopefully we improve your VO2 max. But I've always been interested in the gyms are really starting to, because of what we talked about, like concierge medicine is going to double in 8 years. Wellness is exploding as well. So the gyms are starting to offer these wellness things. One of them being, I go to a nice gym, as you know. They offer VO2 max. They had the machine out the other day. And I was like, well, what are you going to do with that? So my first question to you is, when you're bringing all those things together and looking at all that stuff versus someone that's doing it at the gym, that's like, okay, cool, which I got to say, most of these people who go to a nice gym could afford some elevated medicine. However, I get my score there. Maybe I remeasure it 6-12 months out. But what added thought process are you bringing to it besides just my score? Let's just say I went to my gym, don't know who you are, know nothing about concierge medicine. I do my score because it's more than likely someone, my gym's talking about it. I saw a TikTok or an Instagram reel, and now I want to do my VO2 max. And some of these famous doctors are talking about it online, right?
Well, first I'd say great that you want to be that proactive and do it, right? I wouldn't necessarily tell somebody don't do it, because the information is good information. The information is helpful. Now, things that are different, the way we do it maybe than the way they're doing it, we look at it in the context of you as a total patient, right? Your total health. We've done a stress test on you if you're my patient. So we know that your heart is healthy enough to push it that far for a VO2 max.
Oh my God, can you even imagine? Oh
so
God.
That
Someone
would be
fainting.
One potential red flag, right? If you don't exercise and you show up at the gym for your new membership and do a VO2 max, and you could have a heart attack, you could pass out. Things could happen, right? But we're looking at you in the context of your total health. So we look at that. We measure blood pressures on these patients. We're not going to start a VO2 max if your blood pressure's already high. That's not an indicator that anything good is going to happen in that moment. And we need to address that first, right? So I think it's a more comprehensive approach. We're also talking to you a lot about your diet and your exercise and your sleep, and being able to integrate those lifestyle medicine pieces into the improvement of your VO2 max long term. So I would say maybe it's just a more well-rounded plan in order to actionably improve that. But the idea of giving more patients access to something like a VO2 max, I think is great.
Yeah, so that's just question what you're doing. You know, there's the gym bros, there's the gyms, there's the influencers. Like, just question, what is the point? What is the outcome? What are you doing? Yeah, it's great. Go get your VO2 max test, but what is the point of it? You know, and how you bring that all together and look at everything together from a full standpoint. And that's where I was kind of egging you on to kind of hit. So hot, super hot topic. I think everyone except for maybe me is on a GLP-1, and I'm thinking about it at this point. I'm just messing around. But no, seriously, you know, it seems to be, it's one of the hottest topics in all of medicine. It's definitely probably the hottest topic in Miami. Like, what are your thoughts on that? It seems like everybody wants to be on it. People are getting it from their nail lady, their gym, or hopefully from a physician. But what are your thoughts on GLP-1s? So
I love GLP-1s. Semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide. There's all these different generations of them. They're fantastic innovations in the realm of medicine to help people with diabetes, to help people with resistant obesity, to help people with metabolic imbalance. They're anti-inflammatory. The outcomes data is great. So it's not just a quick fix that doesn't improve your overall health. Actually, they give people lower risk of disease and lower risk of death. So they're revolutionizing medicine for sure. Now, it has become a little bit of the Wild West of medicine to see people sourcing GLPs because initially they're so expensive commercially. And so I understand kind of the desire to look for a cheaper way to get the same outcome. But it can also be dangerous, right? You shouldn't be getting prescription grade medications from the trainer at the gym, from the person who calls themselves a wellness coach and is not a licensed medical provider, from the nail lady. I haven't seen that, but if you have, I don't even want to know what salon it is. It's Miami, baby. Tell me you're in Miami without telling me you're in Miami. But I think having a doctor that knows you, that knows your health, that is helping you with a plan for how to best use these meds really makes it a different game altogether. We've been able to have so many patients have such great results in terms of getting healthier, getting off medicines for blood pressure, getting off medicines for cholesterol, decreasing the amount of medicines they have to take for diabetes, having to buy whole new wardrobes, which they were very happy to do because they were 3 sizes smaller. Meanwhile, because I have the ability to test their muscle mass and bone density in my office with the DEXA, we're able to make sure that they're keeping their bones strong and they're building muscle while they do it. And I think that's where a lot of these, you know, mail order or internet order companies fail, is that they're not able to make sure that the person's doing it right and they're not risking something bad in the process, such as sarcopenia or such as bone loss and osteopenia, osteoporosis, such as even, you know, Ozempic face, right? Because they're losing too much weight too fast and then they look hollowed out and they look old, which can happen with any rapid weight loss. But if you're not doing it in a careful, thoughtful, systematic, organized way backed by science, you're not looking at those things. And the patients are really at a disservice as a result. So I love them. I think they're great. And I think retatrutide is going to be even better than the ones we have once it's fully FDA approved, but the studies look fantastic. So I think they should be used more in medicine than they are. Yeah, you bring in a bunch of extremely excellent points. There's great data, great outcomes, great overall health changes in cardiovascular, et cetera, et cetera. But then you said if you don't do it right, you can actually have issues like your bone density. What was the other one you said? Muscle loss. Muscle loss, which these are two of the main things that you need: strong bones and muscle retention and strength gain to have a good long health span. Correct.
So you're actually not understanding what you're doing long-term to your body to get the quick benefits of weight loss. You can actually be hurting yourself with muscle loss, which is one of the biggest indicators of longevity as well. And then having low bone density or bone density issues over time create a ton of issues as you age. So you have to really think about these things. Nobody talks about them because, at the end of the day, they're super profitable and they work. And if you don't think about how you're utilizing them, because I know some really, you know who I'm talking to. I know some really well-to-do people that are taking these on their own and getting them online, and they're not thinking about those things. And I'm very smart, so I hope you are. And if not, we'll talk about it offline. But, and you can actually create some problems down the line.
For sure. And you need to be able to be honest with your doctors if you are taking them. So we've had patients, we've seen patients that, come to us for a pre-surgical evaluation, and they didn't tell the surgeon they were taking tirzepatide because it was from the compounding pharmacy and they didn't want to lecture, let's say. You have to stop these meds before surgery, or people can have pneumonia, aspiration, all kinds of complications. So you need to be able to be honest about it and also do it the right way so that your doctor can tell you, hey, 2 weeks before your surgery, stop this medicine. Or you know what, for that surgery, we need 4 weeks. Whatever it is, but that way you're doing it the way it should be done.
Fair enough. Which brings me to another hot topic in medicine. Hot topics in medicine. Another hot topic in medicine. And it's something that I know you've been curating for some time now and continuously improving for the patient population that you take care of and beyond. And it's around brain health. And they're even terming it now brain span. Give me some insight. And I'm the worst patient with this, I'll be the first to admit, but give me some insight on how you're looking at this, and even you helped curate a wonderful long article on this. So I'd like to hear a little more insight from your perspective on this, on cognition, brain span, and brain health.
Absolutely. So cognitive health is hugely important for people, right? Not just people with these high executive level jobs that need their cognitive health in order to do their daily job, but everybody wants to feel vibrantly strong from a brain health perspective and for the longest time possible. And nobody wants to develop any mild cognitive impairment or dementia or anything like that. So the real questions that I get from patients often on this are, what can I do to prevent it? Or how do I know if I'm forgetting things? My husband told me I told him that story already. Is that dangerous? Things like that. And I think part of it is we need to look into it. We need to assess your brain health. There are older ways to test that we were taught in medical school with mini mental status exam, which is like a series of questions where we can test and see where you are. High achieving people, a lot of attorneys, business people, realtors, doctors, they're going to score really well on that. And it's going to be hard to see early abnormalities. There are other ones like the MOCA, maybe a little bit better for finding mild abnormalities, but still not great when you have a group of people that are so smart and use their brain so much on a daily basis. So being able to test it in different ways has been something that we've looked into. We partner with a company to perform these extensive brain assessments, and it's like a series of games. So it's really fun actually for patients. It's interesting. It's not boring. And it's able to tell us, we do it in all of our higher tier membership patients. It's able to tell us their baseline. And then we can see specifically where maybe they could do better. And we can give actionable insights on that so that we can retest them and actually see if they're doing better. Training your brain, if you will, right? Other things we can do, like we mentioned before, those tests that are out there for screening for risk or development of Alzheimer plaques or risks for dementia. And we can connect those people with a trial potentially, or with a treatment to prevent, or with information on you should be doing these other things to optimize until we have the science that will catch up soon so we can really prevent.
Thank you for that great answer. I feel like today would not be a good day for me to take that test. So I'm going to move on to the next hot topic in medicine. I'm really enjoying it. You always have a plethora of knowledge. I'm very fortunate where I get to ask you questions all the time. So it keeps me sharp cognitively. One of my favorite topics, and that's why I'm pushing this towards the end of our conversation, and you already answered my other favorite topic was the AI and where tech is. So those are my two favorite topics, as you know. And right before this, I actually took my little pack of vitamins for mitochondrial health. So, I constantly talk to you about, optimization, cellular optimization, and mitochondrial health. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And I know you've really dived into it. So what are some things that you look for, and how are you thinking about this when you treat your patients?
So that's, I think, part of, this next frontier of longevity medicine, right? How can we make you a machine that runs more efficiently, more optimally? Because at the cellular level, we can do that through all the cells in your body, and then that makes you better as a whole. Mitochondria are the energy powerhouse of the cell. And they are brilliant, and they can replicate on their own, and they can recruit things, and they can make processes happen. So by improving their health, you actually function better. You have more energy. You feel better. Health is better. So there are vitamins and supplements that can promote that. There are peptides that can promote that as well. And some of those have great studies in even patients with disease to help minimize, like, for example, SS31 in heart failure patients and things like that. So we've seen that these meds can work. And I'm excited that they're on the list of what the FDA is going to look at in July in terms of being able to increase access to these by being able to allow pharmacies to make them again on a bigger scale. Because I think that improving mitochondrial health, improving cellular health in general, improving hormonal health, and all the processes related to that help people with energy, with metabolism, and with vitality. And that's a lot of what we want for our healthy patients. How can we make you even better than you are now?
Superhuman. Make you superhuman. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to talk to. I hit all my topics.
No, it was wonderful to sit down with you. We kind of talk all the time, but we never get to talk like this all the time.
I know, this took some time to set up. We should record those. Yeah, that would have been easier.
And we're usually interrupted 12 times by at least one child or one employee or something. So this was really nice.
Fair enough. I think that's an interesting thing that's going on right now. I think the government's really trying to look at how to help. They don't get everything right. So it doesn't matter what side you're for, but you have to root for them to win. Like, you don't want to root for your captain to hit an iceberg, right? Like, if you don't like them. So I think that's a really interesting thing that they're looking at, trying to make it so people can have access to this and make it so physicians have an easier time giving access to things that can help their patients. Whereas it's been very difficult, as you have seen, to get some of these things taken care of, or companies are becoming complicated, or pharmacies, although the medication has robust data and indications, they're taking away your ability to practice as the art of medicine and figure out how does that all come together. And one of the interesting conversations that we had around this was kind of talking about female menopause and the other sectors that you mentioned, and how people saw in their practice a different way to treat this than what has been taught. And then now that's becoming mainstream, and that's what's becoming standard of care. And that's how I think physicians should be able to look at medicine, as long as they're not going too far out of bounds. But how can I take what we have and opportunities that we have to optimize patients and think about it and be able to practice the way we'd like to practice? Because nobody has more knowledge of how to bring that all together than someone that's spent 10 years of their life studying and then putting into practice afterwards.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you said that, because in one of the longevity medicine groups that I'm an active participant in, we talk about that all the time. Some of these peptides are never going to be able to have large scale pharma studies. The cost benefit for those companies doesn't make sense, whether because a patent is going to run out before they can capitalize on it, or because it's so expensive to run trials like that. Or because, and maybe there's first cousins of that medicine that are already available. So why would they invest all this money in this one, right? Things like that. So one of the most powerful ways to get this kind of science out there and evidence for these newer medicines might be real world medicine from doctors who've been doing this for a long time, and them banding together to give data on their patients the same way you would enroll people for a trial and give data on these are the baseline characteristics, this was the protocol, this is the outcome. And that way you can have human data that's real world, that's relevant, and get better scientific advancement as a result. And I think that would be amazing if we could do that.
You know, I believe that's what they're doing in the stem cells. And we've had this conversation with a particular physician. And maybe that's something that needs to be copied, it's not the word, but utilized in a way to bring that data in. And that's what they've been trying to do in stem cells, and they've been working on that. The real physicians practicing in that world are bringing data to a central database so they can get it moving forward, where it's been very difficult for them as well. So that might be something that you bring to that group and talk about, or maybe we don't bring it to that group because
it's in the group.
Because it's my idea.
It's in the group and we're talking about it. It's a great
Fair enough. No, but that's something, the data needs to come, because it's at the end of the day, it helps people. And it'll give some guidelines for those people too. And it'll make it less wild, wild west once they put the power back in the doctor's hands.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this was a fun time. So thank you for joining me and taking time out of your very busy schedule to get this going. And I'm glad we got to do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you.